Yeah. Darn it. Okay, I don't know if do you have an editor? Oh
I
my
do.
God. Okay. Do you want me to? Okay, on now. Shoot. A little bugger. I think somebody just knocked on the door. I think it must be a
Oh, that's why you
postman
got
or
all
something.
excited. Sir Charles got excited.
Oh, he's still barking. Okay, I'll go get him. 1 second. All right. It was the mailman.
Oh,
Damn it.
it's like Mel is here.
Damn the mailman.
Emily, it is such a joy, such a pleasure to have you on Worthy. Tell me how you're doing because I know you have some big news coming up.
I do. I'm 39 weeks pregnant, so I'm doing really well, thank you. I'm excited to get this baby out into the world and start motherhood, but I'm doing well, thank you.
So tell me about the journey to motherhood. How's that been? What's that been like for you? Because I know you're an entrepreneur
Yeah.
and you've worked. And firstly, I'm just amazed at your energy. I've been on calls with you and things and you're just like so high energy. How has that been going through pregnancy and the energy levels and all of the things that people want to know about? What's it been like?
It's been an interesting journey of it. It's really cool because I find that I get to apply the things that I've learned in business now to pregnancy, like in terms of mindset. So I've been doing like in business and life, I do affirmations and meditations and visualizations and that kind of stuff. And in normal times, like I am a wuss when it comes to needles and blood and all that kind of stuff. So getting pregnant, I was like, oh my God, like I need to get this baby out of me. But I was like, no, like I'm going to go in with a strong mindset. So it's been a really cool, like next challenge to see how I can build a really powerful mindset, visualize an amazing labor, all that goodness, and really be protective of my energy because as you probably know, like people can have many opinions of like, oh, pregnancy is the worst and you're going to be so tired and like looking up all the things online, like some of the websites I saw, they were like, oh, you're just gonna feel what like guilty and like all these. I'm like, why are you spewing these terrible things at me? So it's been really good, surprisingly. Like I've really enjoyed this challenge and really liked applying the mindset stuff to pregnancy and seeing how I can rock it. And so far, so good.
So let's talk about that. So you said you've been bringing some of the stuff from your business and mindset and all of that into your pregnancy. Tell me about your business. What is it you do?
I've been helping women entrepreneurs since 2016 grow their businesses like straight up. Like just like if you want to help growing your business, growing more income and impact, I'm your lady to talk to. And in particular, technically I started my business in 2015 doing anything and everything, which I feel like some of us coaches out there do. I don't know if it's a mistake, but venture down that path of like, oh, I can help you with anything. And then in 2016, I thought, you know what? I really love talking about money with women and really empowering ourselves around money because I realized, well, many things. One, money still is a pretty taboo topic that people hide and feel ashamed about and um, have guilt around. Two is with women in particular, I feel that, and I've experienced it in working with women over the last 5 years with this particular thing, is that there's guilt around being really successful and there's worries about judgment and what will people think and fear of success. And actually speaking of pregnancy and family and that kind of stuff, and if I'm successful, that's going to take away time from my family. So all these, what I call money blocks coming up, preventing us incredible women who have amazing talents and passions and that kind of stuff from really growing and thriving, are these silly little blocks. So I came in 2016 to be like, all right, we are overcoming these money blocks because us women are too amazing to be sitting on the sidelines, just watching everyone else do their thing and just being like, one of these days, I'll do that and never actually doing anything.
So someone hearing you might think, oh, wow, you must have either grown up with money or, you've always had a healthy money mindset. But I know that at one point you were really deep in debt. So tell me about what happened, how you got into debt, and how did you get out of it and then now develop this incredible relationship with money?
Yeah. So everyone has a money story, really. Like, and here, speaking of, parenting, that kind of stuff is, I feel like some parents out there are afraid that they're going to screw up their kids with money, depending on their own money situation, that kind of stuff. But like, have no fear. Kids will pick up whatever they pick up. And like, you don't need to worry about screwing them up, because I feel like I actually it ended up being a great relationship with money in the end because of my parents' money blocks. Meaning, growing up, so my mom was a stay-at-home mom her whole life, or my whole life. My dad has run his business since day one of my life as well. So he still runs this business 40 odd years later. And there were some years when money was really tight. And like literally my dad was selling Christmas trees in the parking lot to, make ends meet and that kind of stuff. And now years later, he shares stories of not taking a paycheck from his business because it was either pay the employees or pay himself and lay off the employees. So he sacrificed himself for keeping the business going. So there was definitely years of hardship and overhearing conversations like, we can't afford that. And like, driving clunker cars to school and all that kind of stuff. And seeing my dad work, it was nothing to see my dad work a 12-hour day, like nothing. It was like, he was gone before I got up for school, came home for dinner, and then he'd either go back to the office or he'd work from the dining room table until like bedtime and just recycle that, every day. So my relationship with money then was two major things. One, hoard it, because you got to save for that rainy day, which has its benefits of like saving your money and being, responsible and that kind of stuff. And then also I vowed that I would never be the workaholic that my dad was. And so that really served me. Now I've had to overcome some things of like work hard to make money and that kind of stuff. But it did serve me. So that's why I just want to kick it off. Like, don't be afraid, guys, whatever your money blocks are, whatever you won't screw your kids up. They'll interpret it their own way. Cause like my siblings are complete opposite with me with their money. But, yeah. So growing up, speaking of debt, I actually was really good with money for the longest time. But then when I went away and did my master's in business, I couldn't work because I was so busy with school. I had no choice but to go into debt. And that was the first time ever that I had gone into debt. And there was a lot of shame around that. And a lot of like, there's something wrong with me. And there's this like dark cloud now that follows me around kind of thing. And so to answer your question of how to get over that is, I actually did a TEDx speech basically on this topic a few months ago. And I was sharing in it a quote from Brene Brown where she talks about shame, and that shame needs 3 ingredients to grow exponentially. It needs judgment, secrecy, and silence. And so the same applies to money shame. If we judge ourselves, if we keep it in secrecy and silence, the money shame is going to keep thriving. And where shame is present, change is absent. So, yeah. So the more we give into the story of I did something wrong, or I shouldn't have spent that, or what's wrong with me. And even if people are starting to pay off their debt and then they get back into it, if we keep the shame story alive, we make it really difficult for ourselves to overcome that and make positive change with our money. So the biggest shift that happened for me was overcoming this money shame and just being like, you know what? It is what it is. I ain't going to be ashamed about it. I'm not going to like hang my head and like cover myself out in public because of this. And really got intimate with money, meaning seeing debt as a positive thing. So I'm like, okay, that tens of thousands of dollars allowed me to get a master's degree and move on and, get different jobs and that kind of stuff. So I did a video, actually. I can send you the link if you want to put it in the podcast notes or something. It was a video actually that gives I think it's a 20-minute video show that gives really practical tips on the mindset shifts that helped me pay off $10,000 of debt within 1 month. And
Can you share like just a few? We'll definitely link to the video. I'd love to share that. But can you give some like some of the highlights of what was
yeah,
it? What were some of the key things that helped change your mindset?
the biggest thing which overcomes this money shame was what I call the dollar a day method. Something that I accidentally made up, but worked. So what happened was, I looked at my bank statement 1 month. It was October. It was October that I was looking at my banks. Actually, yeah. So this time a few years ago, and I was looking at my bank statement. And I'm like, oh my god! I was like, I paid off $10,000 of debt. Like what? I didn't even realize I had done that. And here's what happened: was I had intentionally been putting at least $1 or more on my debt every single day. Now I know seemingly on paper that seems like, okay, well, in 30 days, that's $30. Like, Emily, that's not $10,000. Come on. But here's what happened is it overcame the secrecy and silence of like, and like the ignorance is bliss kind of thing. Like if you don't look at it, it doesn't exist. It had me coming face to face with something that once felt shameful and all that, bag of emotions. So every day I was looking at my debt and like blessing it and almost like praising it and thanking it and being like, you don't have power over me anymore. I have the control here. I'm sitting in the driver's seat. So in paying off at least $1 a day, it mindset wise put me in a really powerful position. But then practically speaking, what happened was things would come up. Like I remember the lawyer's office the lawyer that we used when we sold a house a few years prior called me up and they're like, we have for some reason they had a check for me for $75 that like they owed me from the sale of our house. I don't know, it was anyways, it was something. So I pick up the $75 check and I'm like, okay, I'm going to put that on my debt. And then I remember for some random reason, my husband ended up getting a bonus at work of a few $1,000s. So I'm like, perfect, let's put that on our debt. And so in being very mindful and aware of the extra money coming into your life and being really aware of your debt, it's like you see the opportunity more often to pay it off versus, because I like to share like in normal times, quote unquote normal times, had my husband gotten that bonus and we had not been focused on the debt, the daily debt repayment, what would have happened is he would have taken that and been like, sweet, let's go, I don't know, go on a trip or go buy whatever, like a new TV, and then it'd be gone. And, so in looking at the debt every day and being really aware of your money, you really see the opportunities and the potential to pay it off sooner than later. So that's the gist.
I love what you just said. So there are a couple of key things that you just said. Number one, it's the shame that so many people carry the shame around the debt and so they hide it. And because they're hiding it, they're not looking at it. It's almost like, I don't want to look at the bank statement. I'm just going to throw them away every month. But once you've looked at it, but not from a place of judgment, right? If I'm hearing you right, not from a place of judgment, but from a place of, okay, this is what it is. Then now the next step that I heard you say is now you have an awareness about, oh, this is how much debt I have. Then now, and I think this is the huge thing. I love what you just said there, Emily, in that I think a lot of us feel like, oh my gosh, the debt is so huge. And unless I'm making like these massive payments, there's no point. But you just said something so powerful that $1 a day means you're $1 less in debt than you were yesterday. And yes, it might not sound like a lot, but also now you've activated in your mind that, oh, where else can I find the money? I love that. It's simple and yet so powerful.
Totally. And I had a past client of mine reach out to me a few months ago who applied this $1 a day thing. And I forget, was it like 17,000 she paid off in a month? It was like some crazy big amount, but using that method of just finding the extra cash that otherwise would have gone to other things. Cause most of us like to spend versus save. So when this extra cash does come, like I said earlier, like we're like, oh, let's go out to dinner or whatever it might be. And so we start to lose that empowerment around our money.
So how did you go? So you go from you're in debt, you have this great epiphany
Yes.
to how to pay down the debt, then what is it that then made you think, oh, wow, I'd love to take what I've learned. And then also, just so that everybody knows, you have an MBA. What
Yep.
made you then decide that, oh, I want to be a coach and to help other women do this, or help other women attract abundance into their life, help other women with their finances?
Well, it was personal experience was the biggest catalyst for diving into business coaching, because it wasn't all like sunshine and rainbows when I graduated with my MBA. Um, when I graduated, I just had this naive assumption that when you get a degree, automatically like life puzzle pieces will all fall into place. Like you'll know where you're meant to work, and like you'll be so passionate, and like life is going to be so blissful, and you're going to be making like all this money, and and when I graduated my MBA, that was not the case. I I moved to Halifax to be with my husband, then boyfriend at the time, for him to go to law school. And I was like, this will be great. Like I'll get set up there and I'll get a job and I'll like be on my way. And I only lasted 5 weeks until my dad called me up, and he knew I was miserable, because I was literally, not to sound dramatic, but I was literally got to the point where I was crying myself to sleep every single night,
Aw.
just being like, there has to be more to life than this. Like what, like, and I'm sure like maybe you've experienced this, and probably a lot of your viewers or listeners have experienced that feeling of like, I know I'm meant for more, which I know sounds cliche, but it's cliche for a reason. And that was like that gnawing feeling. I mean, like, I know I'm meant for more, but like, what am I doing in life? And so my dad calls me up. He says, hey, I got a position for you at my office if you want to come work with me. So I move home after 5 weeks of packing up all my stuff and moving a house. So I move home and I start working in a completely unrelated field to any of this. I start working as a project manager in construction. I actually took over for an engineer's position. I'm like, Dad, I'm not an engineer. I hope you know that. Like, but one thing leads to another, where I eventually found a coach who had a program at the time. It was just a monthly program. There's 2 calls a month. And she opened my eyes to mindset. And it was the first time that I had ever really become aware of the fact that what you visualize, what you say to yourself, what you believe about yourself can impact your external results. And so I went like all in. Like when I get into programs, I go all in. Anyway, so I went all in on this program. It was only $50 a month. So it's not like it was like this huge, investment. And one thing leads to another. And to make a semi-long story short, I ended up putting on my vision board the picture of a house under construction. And also I put $100,000 on there. And one thing leads to another. And before I know it, this shouldn't have happened for me, because I was only making $50,000 at the time on a single income. But I ended up building a $500,000 home, having no idea what to do. Like, no idea. Like, I'm just like, land perfect on it, buy it. Need someone to come excavate? Wonderful. I'll figure that out. Like, just really, like, literally, like, one foot after the other. Built this house, ended up selling it privately by myself within a week. That's a whole other story, because my real estate agent ended up going under. So I had to figure it out myself. And ended up sitting in my car, after this had all transpired, with a check in my hands for pretty much to the dollar, the $100,000 that I manifested. Yeah. So it was after that moment that I was like, okay, like there's something to this. And
Before working with this coach, what was it that attracted you even to working with a coach? Like, what was it that you were seeing that, oh, this might help me?
because I was so lost and so desperate. And her program, it was called Hugs and Laughter. So it was very like, it was like just like this warm welcome, like hug of like, oh my God, somebody take me in and show me how to like find my purpose or find some meaning to life. And it just started from there, where I feel like, well, we all have an intuition, and there was like that something in me that it just felt so good. It felt like, like, oh my God, these books that I'm reading about your mindset and that kind of stuff. I was just like, oh, this feels so right. And it was like this playful game that I then got to explore and play and have fun with. And there was because I was so down and out, there was really no lot, like there was nothing to lose. So it
Mm.
was like, this doesn't work out. I'm no further behind than I was before. So like, might as well go for this. And fortunately, it just like, it really resonated with me. And then one thing led to another. And then before I know it, I'm getting these amazing results. And then my coach is pushing me out into the world going, you go, you go, you go, like, you go do this. And I'm like, what, me? Like, so that's how I got into it.
And for you, was that a big step in terms of, because it's such a departure, right? You've done this MBA, and I'm sure when you went to MBA school, it was, you're going to be in finance and you're going to be in all these corporate style jobs. Had you thought about being an entrepreneur before? Was that something you'd entertained?
Kind of. I was really jealous of so when I did my MBA, you could specialize, and I ended up specializing in marketing. And I was really jealous of the people who did the entrepreneur specialty, but I couldn't do it because you had to have a business idea to present. And I had nothing at the time. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do for a business. So I couldn't apply and go down that path because I didn't have a business. But there was always something in me that was very intrigued by, like, ever since I was a kid, I've always been intrigued by the whole notion of selling and making money. Like, I literally sold pieces of my hair when I was 6 years old to make money. like, like went around a family party because one of my relatives said he loved the color of my hair. So I went around the whole family party being like, who wants to buy a piece for $1? Like,
Did you get any takers?
I did. I made like $5 that night. So I was like a rich woman that night. So I'd always been intrigued by this whole, like, oh my God, you can like sell things and make it, like, and like I had the lemonade stands when I was a kid, and the paper route and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I it was always kind of like seated there, but the how wasn't present. And that's the thing I think that was most frustrating in that low point of my life of like, I knew I could do something great. The how wasn't there. It was just like this big gray cloud. And that was so frustrating. But, it was really just following those illogical breadcrumbs that were placed in front of me. Because I mean, even moving home to work with my dad in a position, like I said, was an engineer's position. But that actually ended up being one of the best moves ever in my life because I had the flexibility then when my coaching was growing to cut back on my hours and to really like balance growing a business whilst also financially being stable and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And eventually, step full out into coaching.
You said something that's so profound, is that you followed the breadcrumbs, because I think often, and this is something that I hear a lot of people say, who are like, I don't know what my purpose is. And I think sometimes we have this, notion that you'll just sit at home and if you just think hard enough, that it'll just magically come to you. But that the purpose doesn't just come to you sitting on your couch. The purpose or finding what that thing is comes from doing, right? You followed one thing and followed another thing, right?
Absolutely. One of my favorite sayings that I tell my clients is, and I don't know if we can curse here, so I won't, but
we'll bleep it out. Go ahead.
I was like, mindset without action is BS. And I normally use the real word. Yeah. Because like to your point, we can sit around and think about it and daydream and all that kind of stuff. But unless you are taking action, it's all just BS. Like you're going to be sitting there years from now going, why hasn't anything changed? Or, what have you. So really taking action and like, I think and I fall into this trap, in my business thinking the next level, something massive is going to open up and then I'll know like the sky will open and, oh my God, this is my next step in my business. And I got to keep coming back to just follow the breadcrumbs, just follow the little nudges you get today. And I think there's this false perception that people who have it, quote unquote, figured out or are successful or what have you, had that epiphany of, God coming down and being like, this is your path here, go. But if you really hear the stories behind, some of the most successful people out in the world, it didn't happen that way. It like happened from their garage, or like Sarah Blakely is a big inspiration to me who started up Spanx. And like, that was just her cutting the legs off her pantyhose because she was frustrated that her underwear lines were showing when she wore pants.
And
right?
now
Like,
that's like a bill. Like I'm like literally, you cut your like. And if you think about it, how many women did that? I'm sure there. She was not the first, right? I'm sure there are many women
yeah,
who did that, but she took that one thing and has turned it into $1 billion business. So I think sometimes too we discount, as you call them, the breadcrumbs, right? And we think that
yeah,
that couldn't possibly, right? Because for you, you could easily have discounted. Oh yeah, yes, that was fluke that I built this house and made this money, but you were like, there's something there, right?
yeah. And it just keeps getting better and better. And I remember there was an interview I saw Sarah Blakely have where she shared, I don't know if she used to write it in her journal or just say it out loud, but essentially she used to say to the universe, like, show me my $1 million idea. Now she got a $1 billion idea afterwards, but she as well didn't know the what or the how, but she also knew that she had something great within her. And so she just used to put it out there, like, show me my $1 million idea, show me my $1 million idea. And then, the universe shows up by saying, like, hey, cut the legs out of your pantyhose. Like,
Now,
you
I
know?
know that one of the things that you teach and one of the things that you talk about is manifestation. And I
Mhm.
think that, I think there are two camps of people. They're the people who are like, this is a bunch of nonsense, like all this manifestation, rub a crystal, whatever, light a candle is a bunch of nonsense. What in your mind is manifestation, and how do you teach it?
Yeah, so I like to say that we're always manifesting in our lives, whether it be, like, I think we get confused, like, of manifesting having to be like manifesting millions of dollars in your bank account, but we're always getting exactly what we're energetically putting out there, right? And so whether you like it or not, you're manifesting. And so what I like to teach then is, how do we really consciously manifest what we want? And so there's two, I think, key ingredients with manifesting. One of them is really obvious, which is asking for what you want, which I'll come back to in a second. And the other is the expectation, is shifting your expectation, which I think people miss. So, one, coming back to the asking for what you want, is I find so often, and I catch myself being guilty of this too. Even I'll share an example of just the other day, like I almost compromised on what I wanted. So there's a course that I know for Black Friday I'm going to be doing a flash sale on, and I was writing out my goals about it, and I was like, okay, I want to have 500 enrollments for this course, and my head went, "Are you crazy? Like you'll be lucky if you get 100 people. Like, lower that goal, woman. Like, do not aim for 500 people." And I realized, like, interesting. I will never get to 500 people if I keep discounting myself and going, oh no, just play it, quote unquote safe, go for 50 people or 100 people or what have you. The thing is the energy, the knowledge, the breadcrumbs will match the intention that you're putting out there. Meaning, if I'm putting out in my mind, if I'm practicing the energy and the vibration and the being the woman who has 500 people enroll for her course, God, the universe, whatever people want to call it, is going to start to bring to me the ideas to match the manifestation of that, of seeing that in my external. But I will never get the ideas, the problem solving, the solutions, all that kind of stuff, unless I even make it an option. So that's the first step, is like I like to tell my clients, raise your hand for what you want. Like, raise your damn hand.
Isn't that the truth? And for me, I'll let you get to your second point in a second, but that's one of the things that I certainly find is that people like, I want to be happy, or I want a better life. What does that look like? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we're not clear on what is it. And whatever, like you said, the universe, God, whatever your belief is, it can't give you what you haven't asked for. It's like going to the supermarket and saying, I'd like some food. Well,
Yeah,
what does that
exactly.
mean?
Are you gluten free? Like, are you low
What does that
carbs? What are we
mean?
doing here?
Yeah. And I love as well what you said too, that you don't get, I truly believe you don't get what you necessarily want. You get what you expect, right? Because
Yes.
sometimes we're saying the words, but like you said, the energy of what we're putting out is, oh, that couldn't possibly be for me, right? That couldn't
Yeah.
possibly happen for me. So we're contradicting ourselves. So I love that. So, okay. So number one, it's ask for what you want. What else
Yeah.
do you say we should think about when we're manifesting?
And you know what I should add to that, just to back up for, is like audaciously ask. Like, be audacious, because like it's not going to cost you anything to ask for more. It's just between you and whatever you believe in. Like, you don't need to go post it on social media of like, this is what I'm going to get. Actually, I'll show this to you, but I know your viewers won't see this, but I have a little sticky note on my desk that, I don't know if you can see, it says 400,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote it down there as inspiration because a friend of mine shared that there's someone she follows on medium.com who literally just did blog posts on medium.com and stuck consistent with it, and now has an email list of 400,000 people. I'm like, that's almost the population of my province. Like,
and when you put it that way, right? It's like the visual of 400,000 people. That's a heck of a lot of people. And
So
that's
I
just
leave it
from
on
being consistent, just writing every day or writing consistently.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't follow him, but according to my friend, that was his strategy. Just like blog posts every day on Medium, and wham, bam, 400,000 people later.
Wow. So we were
So I
talking
keep it in
about,
my, what?
so we were talking about your two key ingredients for manifestation. So you said number one is ask audaciously, and then
Yeah.
the energy that you bring to that in terms of what you expect. What was the second point when it comes to manifesting whatever it is, the dreams that you have?
It's shifting expectations. So I find, and this is, proven that as humans, we have a negative bias. So we have this natural tendency to focus on what could go wrong. So just the other day, actually, I was doing a training with my clients on this where I said, it's fine and dandy to be like, this is what I want. But I said to them, let me know on a scale from 1 to 10, how much do you believe and expect that actually is going to happen for you? Like 10 is like totally like would bet my life on it. And 1 is like, absolutely not, like it ain't happening for me. So depending where someone is on that scale, what I then get them to do is do what if upping, which which is the opposite of what most of us do, which is what if downing, meaning let's just go back to the 500 people enrollment example of my own personal story. Like, I could get into, well, what if that doesn't happen for me? What if I only enroll 50 people? What if people don't like the course? What if, but like, go down, that'll never happen. And instead shift into the what if upping. What if I end up killing it with my Facebook ads? What if I end up getting some affiliate partners who really help me boost sales? What if I do get 500 enrollments? Like, really shift into just pen to paper, let it flow for as long as it feels good of the what if upping. Because it really starts to shift that belief in this is possible for me. And what happens from a law of attraction point of view is, because you're training your brain to focus on the possibility, is it will naturally start to see examples of this in your environment. So who knows? Like, I wouldn't be surprised now if within the next 24 hours, I see a story on Facebook or I hear of someone's success of being like, I didn't think I could sell this course and I had 1,000 people enroll, just building that evidence for me of possibility. So that's what it'll start to do, because your audience might know about the reticular activating system. I don't know if, it's that part of our brain.
But I know, but why don't you go ahead and explain it for anybody who might not know what the reticular activating system is?
Yes, it almost brings like science to the law of attraction, in the sense that our brains could, if it really wanted to, process millions of bits of information a second, but it can't, right? It's like, that would be too overwhelming. We'd just be like sitting here like dumbfounded, like, what do I do with my life? So essentially, we are telling our brain what to focus on. Like, brain, focus on keeping me fed, like keeping me nourished. So we're directing our brain to basically filter out what we are telling it isn't necessary or required or, we need. And so there's a great example I like to use that Tony Robbins shares at his events, where he'll get his audience to look around and he'll say, okay, look around the room and find anything that's blue. So you look around, anything that's blue. Okay, notice anything that's blue. Good, good, good. And he'll say, okay, stop. Now come back, close your eyes, tell me or recall anything in your mind that you saw that was yellow. And it's like, wait a minute. Like, I don't know what was yellow. I was looking for blue. So it's essentially demonstrating the point of this is what happens in our brains when we say, this won't work, this won't work, this won't work. We're repeating that pattern. Our brain is going to go, perfect. All right, I'll give you evidence of this isn't going to work. Look, nobody's bought your course and it's day one. Nobody's buying it. So it's not going to work. Versus us saying to the brain, this is going to work. This is going to work. This is going to work. Then your brain goes, perfect. Your brain is an obedient servant. Like, it's happy to please you. So the brain's going to be like, perfect. All right, let's look around. Let's find all the evidence that will say this will work and you will sell out your course or whatever it might be for whoever's listening.
I love that. I love that perspective shift, because you're so right, Emily, that most of what we're told is think of the worst case scenario, right? And even sometimes in positivity, like in coaching, whatever, people say, well, what's the worst that could happen? And of course, now you're down this rabbit hole of thinking of all the worst things. And I know it's from the intention or from the place of realizing that even if the worst happened, the worst isn't the worst thing that you think it could be. But I love that perspective shift of don't think about the worst that could happen. Think about the best thing, because now that's what you're attracted to, or your reticular activating system is now looking for, is the best things that could happen. That's a great perspective shift. I really love that.
And that's how I built that first home of mine, that $500,000 home, was me saying, okay, this could be possible. I think it, like, all right, let's go for it. And then one thing led to another, where somebody was loaning me the money to make it happen. Like, that was completely left field. And because I was on the path, or my brain was wired for, this is working, I'm going to make this happen. The pieces seemingly, fell into place of, here's who can excavate for you. Here's who can pour your foundation. Like, all of a sudden I was having conversations with people saying, oh yeah, my brother-in-law is a carpenter if he needs someone, like, these conversations started coming up, but it was only because my focus and my intention was there versus
you were focused on the possibility, right? Yeah. Versus, that's so powerful. Now let's talk about your brand. And one of I know you have many things that you do, but one of the things that I know you refer to, or one of your programs, is Rich Woman. Why did you create Rich Woman? Why Rich Woman?
Rich because I feel like it's something that we need to own a bit more. And it's not rich in terms of necessarily financial riches, but overall, like, living up your best life rich. And as cliche as it might sound, it's just, my mission has been to give people the inspiration, the encouragement, the kick in the butt to be like, you get to unapologetically live the best life that you want to live. And I intentionally shifted my messaging back in 2016 to Rich Woman, knowing that it might kind of make people a little uncomfortable. Even me to this day, like, I have branded sweaters that say Rich Woman on them. And like, when I wear it to the grocery store, part of my brain is like, oh my God, like, people are going to look at you and be like, who's this woman wearing a sweater that says Rich Woman on it? But it's like taking back our power, being like, no, like, I get to live my best life. I got to do it my way. And in doing so, it's going to inspire other people to do the same. So yeah, that's the message, or that's my mission.
Why do you think it is that, and I think this is very much, especially women, why do we have such a complicated relationship with money, with loving money? Right? Like, what is it about loving money and loving the idea of being rich that is so hard for some of us to wear?
Well, it's really interesting because there's these subtle nudges, or like subtle implications, I feel like, when we're growing up, of money being bad. Now, this isn't for everyone, but I find, generally speaking, like, even if you think of Disney movies growing up, like, Cruella de Vil was wealthy and she was evil. Cinderella, went to go live with her, what was it, her stepmom or something like that? And like they were all rich and she was like put down in the basement, like scrubbing the floors kind of thing. And even like Pretty Woman, which surprisingly actually is a Disney movie. Um, like when she goes to Rodeo Drive and the rich, like snobs at the store are basically like, who are you to be in here? Like, get out. So there's this subconscious programming of being rich makes you a target or makes you greedy. And then obviously we hear the stories on the news of people, scamming others and getting all this money. So we start to plant the seeds of, oh my God, there's something like dirty about money. And if I'm associated with money, then maybe that'll make me look bad. So coming back to, basically what we've been talking about, a lot of this is what you focus on, you'll find. If we focus on, oh, if I'm wealthy, I'm a target, or I'm bad, or I'm evil, you're going to get more of that versus shifting into, wait a minute, what about all the good that money can do in this world? Like start to find examples of that, of really amazing, lovely, kind, generous people who are very wealthy. Like focus on that as your inspiration. Like come back to Sarah Blakely, like she's a billionaire and she does a lot of good in the world. And like, the classic, like Oprah, like she's done a lot of good. And I know people, might have their opinions and find faults and that kind of stuff. But generally speaking, there are some really amazing, wealthy people in the world, financially wealthy, who are doing good.
You just said something there because you clarified, you said financially wealthy. And one of the things that I loved that I saw on your website is you talked about the fact that you're someone who wants to help others find time and financial freedom. And so I think oftentimes when we think about wealth, we're thinking just about dollar, 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 but freedom or wealth rather can be time freedom as well. So tell me a little bit about some of the different ways that wealth can make its way known in our lives besides just money.
Yeah. So there's a quote that I love. I think Tony Robbins, I think it might be one of his actually, where he says, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And I know even myself, like on my entrepreneurial journey, I need to be conscious of the, as they say, stop to smell the roses type thing. Like take in the wealth of abundance or the abundance in your life outside of monetary, like of health, of love, of time, of like all this goodness. So yeah, some of my clients actually come to me, particularly like one-on-one clients who, like I have a client I just wrapped up with who's running a multi-million-dollar business. So clearly like financially doing quite well, but really wanted some help on the time freedom and the not feeling guilty about being so successful and not feeling guilty about having staff employed so that she can take more time off and be with her family, that kind of stuff. So yeah, to answer your question about like really the whole wealth thing is, I think it's a good thing to reflect on. What you could either do one or you could do both really, but reflect on what do I define success as? Because I know for me, that's been eye-opening. Or you could replace it with what do I define wealth as? Because, or abundance, really pick any word that someone out there might be striving for and define it more broadly, because I know my ego has tricked me into thinking success equals a financial achievement or a number achievement of some sort, of like when I have, the 500 enrollments or whatever it might be, but extending it more broadly to I am successful simply when I show up for myself today, which might be, it could be doing nothing. Maybe doing nothing in that day is showing up for yourself. I know me personally, like I'm working with a PR coach now. So success for me right now is choosing me to put myself out there and claim, like raising my hand to be like, I have a voice. I have something to share. I'm going to choose me and honor my gifts and put it out into the world. So that's a success win for me, if you will, that adds to this whole rich life that I'm living versus just thinking or focusing on how much money is in my bank, how much, how many clients am I working with? Yeah.
I love that. that, for so many of us, we're using other people's bars as the bar to measure our success, when really success is about how you measure it yourself, whatever that definition is. And not for everybody is it dollars, right? It might be
Mhm.
something else. And that's one of the things that I love about the work that you're doing, that it's not just, yes, we want to be rich women, but yes, we also want to be rich women in terms of having the freedom to create the life that we want. I want to ask you, because I know one of the things that you said is that you want to live a life where you're inspiring women to step into what is possible for them. Who are some
Mhm.
of the people who inspire you?
Oh, I get really inspired by musicians for some reason. I don't know why. I have a lot of admiration for the grit and like the obstacles they have to overcome, and the creative expression that they like, the vulnerability, I guess, really. Cause like standing on stage, playing music for people, having could be hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people judging you, like that takes guts and vulnerability and really saying, I'm worth it. Like I deserve to be on this stage. I deserve for people to look at me. And so, yeah, randomly enough, I get really inspired by musicians when I hear people on the radio and go to concerts and that kind of stuff. I'm like, wow, like go you. Yeah, I was gonna say, just like I even saw Mumford and Sons a few years ago, and just standing there, just like in awe, because I know like they weren't an overnight success. Like they did their dues to, do the bars and like with like 10 people there and and then eventually, made it to the big stages. So I'm really inspired by that.
They follow the breadcrumbs, right?
Yeah. And they didn't, maybe this is broad statement, but I was gonna say, like I actually just posted something to say today on Instagram where I shared I love rejection because it means I put myself out there. And that's what I feel musicians do really well. Like, quote unquote, like the successful ones at least, is they embrace the rejection because they know it's part of the gig. Right. And if they're going to get to the big stages and the huge sold out auditoriums, they have got to learn to embrace rejection. Because if you're afraid of rejection, it's like you're never going to be successful because you're never going to be brave enough to put yourself out there fully.
Mic drop. Really, right? That is, what's your greatest wish or dream for yourself right now?
Oh, for myself. Right now, in this very moment, it would be embracing surrender. Because this is definitely a new chapter in my life coming up with a baby coming. And I just think, even outside of having a baby, I can just even feel things shifting business wise, just my direction and intention and purpose and that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, my biggest thing right now is really leaning into surrender and trust. I keep hearing in my head over and over, like I meditate every morning and I keep hearing trust yourself, trust yourself, trust yourself. So just really coming back to that still small voice that can really guide one powerfully if they just take a moment to chill.
You're such an inspiration. You truly are. Where can people find you and find more about your programs and the work that you're doing?
They're best to go to my website, emilyking.ca, CA for us Canadians up here. And yeah, explore around there. You can click on my Instagram. I always love hearing from people. Like I check my DMs. I don't have someone fancy checking it for me. So if people want to then, go to my Instagram and check me out over there and DM me and let me know their biggest takeaway. But yeah, I think the best place is to start on emilyking.ca, download themselves some manifesting meditations that are there on the homepage, and then go from there. Explore around, message me. If you don't like me, then that's okay.
But we're putting out positive intentions in the world. So we know, I know certainly, I've loved this conversation with you, Emily. I love your energy. I'm so excited for you and this new chapter, both for you personally with baby and also with your business, because I see the energy that you're putting out there. And I also know that it's so needed, because one of the things that so many women struggle with is, as you said, we struggle with the being comfortable with abundance, struggle with defining success for ourselves. And I know that you will inspire many, many, many women to step into their power. One last question for you, Emily, before I let you go is,
Mhm.
I know you believe, as I do, in the power of our minds and the power of our words and us speaking things into existence. So I'd love for you to finish this sentence for me. I am.
I'm courageous.
You have been truly such a delight. Such a delight. I am so grateful to you. I know you have a million things to do before baby gets here soon, soon, soon. And I cannot wait for you to share baby pictures with us and baby name and all of the
Yeah.
good things. I
All the baby
send
spam.
and I send you so much love and all best wishes for all of the amazing things that are in this next chapter of your life. And so grateful for you making the time to share with us. And I look forward to following your journey as you continue to inspire women, but I think people in the world. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.